The Signalman from Christmas Stories. A ghost story. When I first called down to him, I was so steeped in the glow of an angry sunset that I had to shade my eyes before I saw him at all. Hello! Below there! His figure was in shadow. He was standing at the door of his signal box with a flag in his hand. But instead of looking up to where I stood, on the top of the steep cutting over his head, he turned round and looked the other way, down the line. There was something remarkable in his manner of doing so, but at that moment I could not for my life have said what. Now, of course, as I look back, I called again. Is there any path by which I can come down and explore? He turned round again, looked up and saw me, but made no reply. Just then there came a vague vibration in the earth and air, changing to a violent pulsation, then an oncoming rush that caused me to start back as though it had force to draw me down. When such vapour as rose to my height had passed me, I looked down again. He was refurling the flag which he'd shown while the train went by, and he was regarding me with fixed attention. I called a third time. Is there a way down? He now motioned with his flag towards a rough zigzag path, which I followed. The cutting was extremely deep, through stone that became oozier, clammier. The way down was long enough for me to recall the singular air of reluctance with which he had pointed out the path. He was standing between the rails by which the train had passed, as if he were waiting for me. He had his left hand at his chin, and his right hand held his elbow. His attitude was of such expectation and watchfulness that I stopped wondering at it, and then I drew nearer. His post was in as solitary and dismal a place as ever I saw. On either side a dripping wet wall of jagged rock, excluding all view but a strip of sky. The perspective one way, a crooked prolongation of this great dungeon. The shorter perspective in the other direction, terminating in a red danger light and an entrance to a black tunnel. The place had an earthy, deadly smell, and so much cold wind rushed through it that it struck chill to me, as if I had left the natural world. I walked nearer to him, near enough to have touched him, and he had not stirred. Then, without removing his eyes from mine, he stepped back. One step. Well, a visitor must be a rarity, I said. Not an unwelcome one, I hoped. I'm far from sure of the words I used. There was something in the man that daunted me. He now directed a most curious look towards the red danger light near the tunnel's mouth. Looked all around it, as if there was something missing from it, and then looked back at me. Well, I inquired whether that light was in his charge. He spoke at last. Don't you know it is? The monstrous thought came into my mind that this was not a man, but a spirit. I stepped back. In doing so, I detected in his eyes some latent fear of me. Would you look at me, said I, as if you had a dread of me? I thought I'd seen you before. Oh, where? There, at the red light? Oh, my good fellow, what should I do at the mouth of a tunnel? I never was there, you may swear. I think I may swear. I'm sure I may. His manner cleared, like my own. He took me into his signal box. Ooh, there was a fire. He replied to my remarks with readiness. Yes, exactitude was what was required of him to change this signal, to trim that light. He was several times interrupted by the electric bell and had to read off messages. I observed him to be remarkably exact and vigilant. Except that twice, while he was speaking to me, twice he broke off with a fallen colour, turned his face to the electric bell at a moment when it had not rung, got up, opened the door, and looked out, towards the mouth of the tunnel, towards the red danger light. Both times he came back to the fire with the same inexplicable air upon him as when I had first seen him. Said I, when I rose to leave him, well, you almost make me think that I have met with a contented man. I must acknowledge that I said it to draw him out. I used to be a contented man, sir, but with this trouble... He would have recalled the words, if he could. Trouble, said I? What trouble? Oh, 'tis a hard thing to speak of, sir. He opened the door and wished me good night. Oh, before you go, sir, he called out, when you stood at the top there, what made you call out, hello, below there? Why, heaven knows, I did shout something to that effect. Because I saw you, below. What? What other reason could I possibly have? He hesitated, then beckoned me in again and closed the door. I've made up my mind, sir, that you shall not have to ask me twice what troubles me. We sat again by the fire. He spoke in little above a whisper. An hour ago, I took you for someone else. I don't know who. I never saw the face. The left arm is across the face and the right arm is waved. Oh, yes. Well, like this, yes. His action was that of an arm gesticulating with the utmost passion and vehemence as he held his other arm over his eyes. He continued. Last year it started, sir. One moonlight night I was sitting here when I heard a voice. Hello, below there. Well, I jumped up, opened that door, and I saw this someone standing by the red light near the tunnel, waving, just as I showed you. I got hold of my lamp, I turned it on red, and I ran towards this. Well, it was standing just in front of the black mouth of the tunnel. I ran right up. Well, I come so close that I wondered at the sleeve, still across the eyes. I had my hand out to pull the sleeve away. It was gone. No, not into the tunnel. I ran into the tunnel, held up my lamp, and saw the wet stains creeping down the walls. I ran out again, come in here, and I telegraphed both ways. An alarm has been given. Is anything wrong? Back come the answer both ways. All well. Well, I explained to him that strange shapes are often known to trouble the delicate nerves of the eye. As to an imaginary cry, well, listen to the wind in this unnatural valley, and to the wild harp it makes of the telegraph wires. That's all very well, sir. I haven't finished.